I would also remind everybody, in accordance with Council's Code of Meeting Practice, that this meeting is being live streamed. The acknowledgement of country, prayer of council and affirmation will be read by Dr. Eddie Jackson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Good evening, Madam Mayor and councillors. The acknowledgement of country. Before we begin proceedings, we would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we meet and their ancestors past and present, the Cabrigal clan of the Darug Nation. I also acknowledge that this land was accessed by peoples of the Darawal and Darug nations. The Affirmation of Council. We affirm our hope and dedication to the good government of our city and the well-being of all of Liverpool's residents, no matter their race or creed. Tonight, we affirm our hope for sound decision-making by Council, which will improve the quality of life in our city. We express our expectations and best wishes for Australia, our nation's future, the Mayor, councillors and staff of Council, and all those associated with good government in Liverpool. The prayer of Council. For the God of our faith, we who are gathered at Liverpool City Council pray for the good government of our city. We pray for the well-being of all Liverpool's residents, no matter their race, gender or creed. Tonight we pray for sound decision-making by Council, which can improve the quality of life in our city. We pray for Australia, our nation's future, for the Mayor, councillors and staff of Council, and all those associated with good government in Liverpool. Amen.
Thank you. Do we have any apologies? Neil? Any condolences? Moving on to the previous minutes, confirmation of previous minutes. And someone
I can move that.
Thank you, Councillor Rhodes. Seconded.
Happy to second it.
Thank you, Councillor Hall. I'll put it those in favour, those against, carried. Any declarations of interest?
Yes, Madam Mayor.
Yeah.
I would like to declare a non-pecuniary less than significant interest in Confo 1, as I know some of the recipients, and I will not participate in the debate or the voting.
Okay, thank you. Any others?
Yes. Sorry.
Yes.
Plan 05.
Confo 5.
Yeah.
That's, let me see, non-pecuniaries, non-significant, and I'll be remaining in the chambers.
Okay, thank you. Any others?
Yes, Mayor, I have one for Conf 03. Family members live in the vicinity of the proposed acquisition. Pecuniary leaving the room.
Thank you. Any others?
Madam Mayor, can you remind me what is Conf 05?
Confo 5 is... Getting there? No, it's in the addendum book. It's in the confidential book. Ugh. Councillor Hall, maybe it'd be best seeing you've declared it. You tell us what it is.
We're talking about Plan 05.
Plan 05.
Yes, that's the Warwick Farm one, and it's in the special addendum book that had to be downloaded.
Okay, thank you. There you are. There's your explanation. Is that okay, Councillor Rhodes?
Yes, I was looking for Confo 5. I'm sorry.
Yeah, when you said that, I was thinking, oh, must be in the booklet. Okay, we've got that sorted. Public forum, we have no presentations, but we do have a representation from Larissa Chan and Katyal, who will make a statement on Councillor's item Corp 02. Larissa?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So we've got a slide pack there, so I'll just wait for that to be loaded. Thank you. All right. So good evening, everyone. Before I start, I'd just like to thank Council for inviting Serby and myself to the Council meeting today. I think it's a really good opportunity to get together so we can brief you on the outcomes of the audit and provide an opportunity to ask any questions. So we've now completed the audits of the financial statements for 2020-21 and we'll be issuing an unqualified opinion. So that means that the financial statements present fairly and they comply with accounting standards and the Local Government Act. So the pandemic continues to impact council's operations in different ways, and the council's made adjustments and we're able to see how council could continue operating and deliver essential services, and the financial impacts of COVID are described in note 1 of the financial statements. It would have been a very challenging year for council and for council staff as well. And so in this context, I'd like to thank George, Vishwa and council's finance team for working together with us through another year of a remote audit.
Councillor Ayad
is now joining.
Okay, we'll move to the next slide. So we'll just start with the performance ratios. So as you know, the Office of Local Government prescribes 6 performance ratios which are audited and included in council's financial statements. You can see that council exceeded the industry benchmark for 2 out of the 6 ratios. So they were the debt service cover ratio and the cash expense cover ratio. So this indicates that council has sufficient operating cash to service debt, and council can continue to pay its expenses without additional cash flows for 13 months. Council didn't meet the benchmarks for the operating performance ratio. So this ratio looks at how well council contains operating expenditure within operating revenue. So operating revenue has decreased due to a slowdown in activities due to COVID, and there's been an increase in material and services expense. Council didn't meet the benchmark for the own source operating revenue ratio. So this year the ratio has decreased because council has received more grants and didn't generate as much own source revenue. Council didn't meet the unrestricted current ratio. That's due to an increase in unspent specific purpose capital grants, which are accounted for as contract liabilities. And finally, the council didn't meet the rates and annual charges outstanding percentage. Ratepayers continue to experience difficulties paying rates on time due to the impacts of COVID and the pandemic. We'll move on to the next slide. So the next slide's the income statement. So this slide basically illustrates the movement in key items within the income statement. So if you look at the first one there, so rates and annual charges revenue, that increased by 6 billion. So this is in line with the rate peg set by IPART and the increase in the number of rateable properties. The grants and contributions revenue increased by 6 million. That's due to an increase in the non-cash contributions, the Section 711 developer contributions and the capital grants for recreation and culture. So this isn't unusual for growth councils like Liverpool. The operating result was a surplus of 135 million. So that's 40 million higher than the prior year. That's mainly due to the increase in capital grants and contributions. And so if you strip away the capital grants and contributions, then the net operating result was a deficit of 12 million. And this was due to a reduction in revenue and an increase in the waste collection tipping charges and materials and utility expenses. Move on to the next slide, which is the cash and investments. So you can see there, council's total cash and investments was 357 million. So that's 58 million higher than prior year. Council had 32 million in unrestricted cash at year end. So that's the cash that's available for day-to-day operations. The remaining cash and investment balances are restricted for internal and external purposes. I'll now move on to the key areas of focus for the audit and the outcomes. So the first area is Liverpool Civic Place. So in the prior year, we recommended for management to perform a comprehensive assessment over the contract to ensure that the accounting implications were appropriately considered. Management engaged an expert to review the contract. We reviewed the expert's advice and were satisfied that the accounting implications were appropriately reflected in the financial statements. The next area of focus was the Rfs Assets. So management elected to record 1.3 million of Rfs Assets this year. This treatment aligns with the Auditor-General's position that councils control the rural firefighting equipment and therefore should record them. We also looked at the impacts of COVID-19 and whether there was appropriate disclosure in the financial statements. So the impacts of COVID are disclosed in Note 1 of the accounts. There has been a general slowdown in business activities, resulting in a reduction in revenue. There's been difficulties from ratepayers paying the rates on time. So there's a higher than normal outstanding rates and charges ratio there. But overall, we're satisfied that there was sufficient disclosure of the impacts of COVID-19 within the financial statements. We also looked at the accounting for the remediation costs. So management recognised a provision for 5.9 million in the financial statements for site contamination, and we were comfortable that the assumptions supporting the provision were appropriate. There was also an interim valuation for land and buildings this year, and the council recorded the indexation movements. So the fair value assessments resulted in an increase for the operational land and a decrement for the buildings, community land and Crown land. Finally, IT controls were a key area of focus for the audit. Overall, the IT controls were sound. We did report one moderate risk IT issue relating to the security over the EFT payment file. I'll now pass over to Serby. Serby will talk about the Auditor-General's reports and the performance audit program.
Thanks, Larissa. So looking forward to our 2021 local government sector report, we will continue to report on audit results from our 30 June 2021 financial audits and expect to table our report in Parliament early next year. So the key audit findings that come from these audits and the themes from our reported observations and findings across the sector will be incorporated as part of the sector report. So the in-focus areas for the 2021 local government report will include understanding around the controls the councils have in place to address and respond to cybersecurity risks and any incidents that may have occurred. We will look at whether the councils have a cybersecurity framework or policy in place and how it is included in the council's risk management processes. So in terms of Liverpool City Council, it is well placed in terms of its responses and assessment to the risk of cybersecurity. And the council risk assessment processes considers the cybersecurity risk. So this was covered as part of the work we performed. And as always, we'll look at the IT general controls that we cover each year. The report will also focus on the progress of councils establishing the audit risk and improvement committees, as well as internal audit functions. Again, Liverpool Council has an effective audit committee and internal audit function. And I guess this is more directed towards the regional councils where ARIC committees and internal functions are being formed or are being getting more mature. So the 2021 Audit General Report should be tabled in the new year. So we're looking at early 2022. Once we have completed this work for all the councils, we then look at the observations and recommendations from these focus areas, and this will inform topics that will be included in the 2022 Auditor General reports for our 30 June 2020 for our council audits for next year, 2022. Okay, moving on to the performance audit. So there are some of these are some of the. All right. So these are some of the upcoming performance audits that the office will be undertaking. With a focus on response to the emergencies and COVID-19, the following performance audits are planned for the local government sectors in 2022. The effectiveness of the financial management and the governance in selected councils, the development assessment processes in local councils, coastal management reforms, the effectiveness of local government regulation support. Some of the planned performance audits for 2022, 23, 24 will be cybersecurity, precedent planning, road asset maintenance, managing the code of conduct, performance managing, monitoring, and audit of issues with the particular councils. So some of these that might be that might have a bit of a focus on Liverpool Council would be around cybersecurity and the effectiveness of financial management and governance. Okay, and those are for your performance audits. Do we have any questions on that?
Any questions from anybody? Councillor Haggerty.
Just in terms of those risks, in particular the cybersecurity one, where are we placed in terms of other councils? Just wanted to, I guess that doesn't matter in the scheme of things, but it's always good to sort of benchmark and see how we're going against others. But just wanted to get a general comment on that if you knew.
Yeah, so in terms of council's cybersecurity maturity, there is a framework, there are policies and procedures in place. There are, requirements in terms of, there's better practice in terms of adhering to the essential 8 and various better practice guides. I think generally speaking, within the local government sector, there's a way to move to get towards full maturity. But in terms of this specific council, there's definitely a framework, there's policies and procedures in place. But as with other councils, there's a way to go in terms of reaching fuller maturity.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions? Councillor Rhodes.
Yes, in terms of meeting the criteria obligations in the accountancy where we missed 4 out of the 6, can you give us a little bit of a further explanation on that? Because it's the first time I believe that council has done that. We previously met all of our requirements. How serious is it? Give us your opinion.
So in terms of the ratios, I would say across the board, and I do a few councils,
Can't do this.
I think given the impacts of COVID, it's really impacted negatively on the ratios. So in terms of this specific council, back a few years ago, it was more, you're right, there were more ratios that were met, but in terms of the ones that are not being met now, a lot can be tied to COVID. For example, the rates and outstanding ratio, that's because the ratepayers are not paying the rates on time as much because they're experiencing the impacts of COVID there. In terms of the operating results, again, there has been a reduction in the revenue because, typically the revenue that comes in from into council, it's not coming in as well because of the impacts of COVID because activities have slowed down and there has been, an increase in expenditure. So that, explains, I guess, those key ratios there. But generally speaking, across, the councils that I do, more councils are not meeting the ratios.
And how do we compare to those other councils?
So I do a range of different councils in terms of regional, rural and metropolitan ones. I would say generally speaking across my portfolio, a lot of councils are not meeting the ratios as much. So that's how Liverpool compares. So I think it's in line with the sector.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions?
Yes, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Caliander.
Did Councillor Chitty just jump in, sorry?
I think Councillor Chitty's next, but he has to mute, I think. Councillor Caliander, go ahead.
Sure, thanks, Madam Mayor. I have 2 questions. First of all, thank you, Larissa and Surbhi, for your presentation. It certainly has been a very long time since I've seen Surbhi, so hi. Do I need to declare a conflict of interest in relation to that? Obviously non-pecuniary, non-significant.
It's up to you, Councillor.
I will for the sake of propriety, but my second question is in relation to the risk management framework. Surbhi, you mentioned that that our sort of processes are quite robust, especially in comparison to regional councils. Is there anything else that we could or should be doing in terms of improving our risk management framework, based on other Sydney Metro councils in particular?
I think we do. Sorry. I think Liverpool Council itself, they have a very robust risk management framework. As part of our audit work, we do look at the risk registers, the policies and procedures in place, and I think looking at the portfolio that we look at and the other councils, I think Liverpool Council is quite mature in their risk management framework and also the policies and procedures that do apply. Compared to the other councils, I think they're doing pretty well in terms of where they're sitting. And look, there's always room for improvement, but anything that does come through, we do flag it as part of a management letter points. But I think at this stage and over the past few years, there's nothing being flagged or anything that we would recommend at this point. I think the council itself is doing pretty well.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Chitty? Councillor Chitty? You can unmute now. You wish to ask a question?
Yes, sorry, Mayor, just having problems with this computer, if you can hear me now.
Yep.
Hello?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Oh, thanks, Mayor. Sorry, just a couple of questions, if I may. On a couple of occasions, you mentioned the pandemic, and that's the reason why we have some issues and we've missed out on some income. But if I look at the reports, if I look at the the income statement and the cash flow statement, both those show budgeted versus actual, that the income is greater than what was expected. So how can the pandemic have an impact on our finances if we actually brought in more than what we actually budgeted for?
So if you look at the other income within the financial statements, and I'll give an example, car parking fines is one area where council hasn't generated as much income as it could have because of the pandemic. That's just an example.
Sorry, I get you on that, but overall, when you're doing a budget, if you're budgeting for $1 million worth of income and you hit $1 million worth of income, you've reached your income level that you budgeted for. We actually looks like we've exceeded it. But we're saying we have a revenue issue. Revenue budget versus actual, actuals are actually higher than budgeted.
So we don't audit the budgeted figures, so we just comment on the actual figures. And you can see that, if you compare some of the revenue streams that have gone backwards within the actuals.
But is it fair to say that overall we've actually brought in more than what the actual budgeted amount was?
Well, I guess if you compare against the budget, then that is true. But I guess my comments were specifically on the actuals.
Yeah, and the actuals show that we brought in more than what was actually budgeted. But I'll leave that point there. In relation to Civic Place, are you comfortable with the way that the financial reporting on that has been undertaken?
Yeah, so I'm comfortable. Accounting advice was sought over Liverpool Civic Place, so Grant Thornton, an expert, was brought in. In terms of the accounting, the main implication at the moment is that council has recognised some WIP within the financial statements, and that's appropriate at this point in time.
Can I then throw probably a question to the CEO, if I may, Mayor?
Yes.
To this, and I'm going to ask this in. How do I ask this? Has everything in relation to Civic Place financially been reported to us?
CEO?
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Yes, it has, Councillor.
So there's nothing that we should be afraid of and nothing that's going to come out down the track that we know of now?
Well, there will always be, in any construction project of this type, there will always be variations.
Yeah, but sorry, CEO, just as I understand variations moving down the track, but as we sit here now, has everything been reported?
It has, Councillor, yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? No? All right. Well, thank you very much, Larissa, and your partner in crime. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And
thank you.
It's been a pleasure working with you both. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now we're moving on to the mayoral report. The first mayoral minute is the Chief Executive Officer's performance review. The CEO's 2021 annual performance review was conducted by Council's CEO review panel on the 19th of November 2021. The review panel consisted of myself, Councillor Haggerty, Councillor Hull, Councillor Rhodes. Apologies were received from Councillor Balut and Councillor Did. The performance review was facilitated by Mark Anderson from LGN New South Wales Management Solutions. The review panel assessed the CEO's performance as more than satisfactory with an average rating of the 3 sections of performance agreement of 8.3 out of 10. In terms of feedback to the CEO, the panel was generally very positive and expressed to the CEO that he's working very well and the organisation appears to be responding positively under his leadership. The facilitator provided a review panel with benchmarking data of GMs and CEOs packages from large metropolitan councils, including neighbouring councils, showing the current wage packet, and we were below that rate. Using this information, the criteria for awarding an increase, clause 8.3 of the standard GM CEO contract, the review panel all agreed and recommend a performance increase of the CEO's total wage package TRP of 2%. I move that this be received and noted. I'll put that. Any objections? Carried. The next item, you'll have to bear with me because it's a bit of a lengthy one and I apologise.
Sorry, Madam Mayor, can I just clarify something in regards to the previous motion? That was passed unanimously, was it?
Yes, it was. Well, I didn't have anybody object, so. Okay. Tonight will be my last council meeting in over 2 decades. I have personally experienced the ups and downs of local government since the 1993 Act came into being. It was to strengthen local government to make a more modern structural changes. I'm not sure whether these aspirations have totally bore fruit, but here we are. It's a very different environment I find myself in now to when I was first elected. I've seen cost shifting take a formal hold on local government, planning powers for the most part be removed from the council floor, and of course rate pegging, our favourite. The debate about this could go on forever, but the main issue is the general public mostly don't understand the restrictions and challenges placed on local government and councillors today. We remain the level of government closest to the people, and yet we're expected to respond to needs of our growing communities with our hands tied behind our backs in many instances. We're expected to respond to performance measures imposed on us by state government authorities with little room to move, treating us as a business, but we are not a business. We are the core of our community. We've had to value assets which businesses don't. Businesses don't have our situation. It has been argued as artificial in the sense of our financial existence. And depreciation, my favourite, is a very good example. The issues we face in the past 18 months have been a testament to our resilience. Floods, fire, and a continuing pandemic, all having large resource impact on us, never seen before in our sector. All we need now is a plague of locusts, and I'm very aware that we've had mice in the rural areas. Councillors are like board members of a company. Their job is to create the overarching policy which will assist the whole of the community, but within constraints. We're expected to bring leadership to the fore and to create stability for staff and to oversee the progress of the organisation through working with senior staff and the CEO. This is a serious role and it comes with some liability because we have little protection. The danger of just appeasing one part of our community without the thought of the global good could come at a cost and isn't in line with the expectations of the Act, and nor does it showcase professionalism, and we're always under that microscope. It is imperative that councillors work together for the betterment of our community across political barriers, but understanding our limitations. We could be seen as barometers of our community. Candidates for local government need to do their homework before they put their hands up because of the restrictions placed on us, the expectations and the unique nature of our roles. We need to pass the pub test in character and in ethics, but also we need to know what we're doing. Liverpool is the third CBD. In my lifetime, I've seen Liverpool move from a township to a city to a regional centre, and now, in my view, it is definitely the third CBD. But a great deal of continued work and vision must be maintained for this mantle to be assigned proper. If we miss the boat, we are damning generations to come to limited work choices, negative influences on family lives, and long-lasting damage to our local economy. Our innovation precinct was a gamble, but we felt it was necessary and it paid off, especially through the dedication of our staff and our stakeholders. This is a real achievement, and I thank our talented staff for this. And of course, there's the airport. The connectivity between our CBD and the Aerotropolis must continue as a priority. Transport and logistics will play its part, but it must be done well and to include real investment in our CBD. Globally, local government needs to be elevated and respected by other tiers of government. Until this happens, I believe our fate is uncertain. I have been fortunate to represent Liverpool in so many ways and to see our local government area evolve into what it is today. I am both proud and humbled to have the role in this growth and to have met so many interesting and committed people along the way. I would like to thank my husband Paul for his support for over such a long time. We've been together over 40 years, and over half of that time, I've been involved in local government in some way or another. It's been a partnership this whole time. I would also like to thank my children for their support because Mum was usually at council functions. In fact, my younger daughter accompanied me to many functions because we just didn't have childcare, and many things were missed at a family level because of council obligations. I'd also like to thank my two granddaughters who, through no fault of their own, have also had to fit into this lifestyle, and they've done it well, especially being quiet in teams, which is a bit of a challenge. I would like to thank all those in the community who have supported me over the years and shown kindness and support when needed, and there has been times when that was very much needed. I would like to call out my colleagues and thank you for your work in this term. And I would like to especially thank Councillor Carnib for his friendship and support over so many years. Councillor Carnib has been on the same journey as myself, although he has more children. And I wish him the best in the up-and-coming election. He now will hold the record. I also would like to take an opportunity to wish Chris and Bernadette Hayswell in their retirement. Chris has been the federal member for Fowler, and together they have worked very hard for their community, and I know they will be missed. I have worked with over 10 CEOs and GMs and numerous acting GMs since being elected in 1995. The fifth woman to ever be elected to council, then becoming the first female elected mayor, elected by the people in 2008. I'm extremely proud to be the daughter of a bread carter, one of 16 children from an impoverished Irish family who delivered bread all over Liverpool in the 50s and 60s and who died at the young age of 39. I believe he would have been proud that his daughter became Mayor of Liverpool and did it twice, especially given he ran for council as an independent and he wasn't successful. The mayoral position has been an extremely stressful role at times, but it also came with rewards. It's been a genuine honour to serve our residents and work with such talented people. I would like to thank the current CEO for his commitment to the organisation, and I wish him well. Also, I'd like to thank the directors and staff, especially the council support staff, including my EA, Lauren Myers, who's been professional throughout. There's a great deal of work behind the scenes that councils don't see, which makes the council what it is. I wish all the councillors running again the best in the up-and-coming elections. For those who aren't running, I wish you well in life after council. There is one. And for those who get re-elected, don't sweat the small stuff. It's all my hope that new councillors can be mentored by returning councillors so we can continue to move this city forward as it's been master planned across political lines to ensure a solid future for our city, our region and our residents. I'd like to thank you all very much. Goodbye. I'm not going yet, but goodbye and good luck in all your futures. Thank you. And I move that this be noted and received.
Happy to second that one.
Thank you.
Oh, it's a mayoral minute. I don't get to do that, do I?
That's right.
Right. No, leave your name, just your name.
That's fine. That's fine. Okay, now moving on to the business of council, which is why we're here. On page 63 is our first item.
Yeah, I'll move that way, Madam Mayor.
Thank you,
Happy to
Councillor.
second.
Just a question in regards to this one.
Yeah.
The Sophiaberg alleyway, or whatever we're calling it, can we? Would it be possible to get a little plaque at one end to sort of signify the significance of the history of it? If that isn't already in the plans, a little bit of a plaque somewhere to sort of go why it's called that and its history and its significance to Liverpool.
I'm sure
happy to add that to the motion if that helps.
I don't think it'll be a problem. CEO, is that no problem?
We're happy to accommodate that.
Okay, thank you. Any objections? I'll put it, those in favour, those against, the carry. The next item's on page 74.
Well, I'm just a comment, Madam Mayor. I'm grateful for Council's submission on this. It's just a question, though. Do we have to approve, give it to the state government to have this control over land?
I'll ask the CEO to ask the appropriate council officer for a reply.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mr. Smith.
Thank you, Councillor. And through the CEO, no, Council does not have to lodge a submission on this if they don't wish.
I don't have a problem with the submission. I just have a problem with them having any authority over this sort of issue.
I think the question might be, is it the state government? Does the state government have authority over this? Are we giving it away? Is that what you're wanting to find out? Through the CEO.
Mr. Smith.
Thank you. Through the CEO, the submission is raising issues with the current proposal, Councillor, particularly in relation to the number of plots versus what ordinarily is the case with a capital investment value. But ultimately, it is a matter for Council about a position Council may wish to take on this matter.
I'm still confused. Are we entitled to say that our submission would be that we'll look after it ourselves, thanks, and the New South Wales Department of Planning and Industry Environment doesn't need to concern themselves over such matters?
Mr. Smith.
Thank you. Through the CEO, absolutely. If that's Council's wish, a submission can be lodged with DPI to say we oppose this in its entirety.
I think what Councillor Rhodes is getting at is it, how can I put this? I understand the submission process and I understand what you're saying, Mr. Smith, but I think what Councillor Rhodes is trying to say is, do we really need to go through the state government channels? Are they going to be the deciding body, or are we going to maintain that?
Through the CEO, what the government is proposing is to take planning powers off Council and set a state significant development threshold. Our recommendation is we think the threshold should be changed from the plots, the number of plots, to a capital investment value. However, if Council wants to simply write to the state government and say, we oppose you taking planning powers off Council in its entirety, Council can certainly resolve that way, Madam Mayor.
I move a motion.
Okay, Councillor Haggerty, what's your motion?
That Council opposes changes along what Mr. Smith just said. I think that if they want to change this to state significant, then it should be like any other development, below in line with the threshold.
Second that, Mayor.
Okay, so moving that the council opposes changes to the existing planning powers, planning whatever's. Oh. Is there any objections to this motion? I'll put it, those in favour, those against, declare it unanimous. Next item's on page 79.
I also have a motion.
Yes, what is it?
I hope George has it ready. Just an additional paragraph, additional point here. So in the submission before us, it's implied in one of the paragraphs, but I just would like this point to be fleshed out a bit more. And essentially, the idea is that, and we had this chat with Deepa in the briefing, that there is, I guess, further consideration to having an appropriate mechanism to facilitate FSR transfer from E&R zoned land to developable land zoned enterprise or mixed use to better incentivise development of land which is part zoned E&R enterprise mixed use. So I'm not specifying how that mechanism will work, but the idea there is that if you've got a parcel of land and I'm speaking to my motion at this point, by the way.
I figured that out, Councillor.
Yeah, say you've got a parcel of land and it's 10% E&R and 90% mixed use, and the parcel next door is 100% mixed use. That's going to have an effect on the value of that land, and more than likely the land next door will get purchased. There's ways, I guess, to incentivise that. If one of the suggestions is you get 100%, you get the FSR for 100% of the land, but you obviously can only develop it in the mixed use. Now, I'm not saying that's how we do it, but that's one example. But the idea here is that we aren't left with parcels of land that are part E&R, part mixed use when we develop this, and we've sort of seen what happens in places like Edmondson Park, Austral, Middleton Grange. We have these little parcels of land that are left as per, left the way they are, and it sort of causes fragmented development. So we need to, I guess, incentivise these and encourage developers to buy up multiple lots and develop multiple lots. And I think there's a way to do this whereby it's a win-win. Those lots get bought up quicker, which is good for the existing landowners. Perhaps it's on the developers to deliver the E&R zone, and while they deliver their developable bit of land, that ends up saving council and ratepayers in the end as well. I hope that made sense.
As clear as mud, Councillor. Councillor Chitty, you wish to say
Thanks,
something?
Mayor. Just a quick question to Councillor Haggerty, and I with him on what he's trying to do. But given the rest of the LGA is in our control, or the LEP is, and the growth centres are partially in our control, wouldn't we want to be doing something that we're saying to the state government you should be doing? So why aren't we doing it for everybody else?
Yeah, well, I'm happy to add a point 4 and say that we consider a similar mechanism as part of the LEP review.
Madam Mayor, at this point, I'll declare an interest and leave the room.
I think we all. Oh, no.
Okay, all right. Leaving the room. He's going.
Thanks, Mayor. Thanks, Councillor.
Okay, we got a seconder.
I'll second it, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Rhodes. Does anybody wish to speak against it? I'll put it those in favour, those against are carried. And now could someone call Councillor Chitty back into the room?
All good. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you. The next item's on page 94.
Yes, Madam Mayor. This particular issue still bothers me a bit because it's about compliance and enforcement issues that council has received the most number of complaints from the constituents, and I believe that it could be addressed. It could be addressed with greater communication and stipulations about what council's position is. I still have difficulty with at council's discretion. That sits very uncomfortably with the constituents and undermines mistrust with the people who we serve and pay our wages. If council was more transparent than at council's discretion, no matter what the rules or regulations were, the constituents would at least know council's standing on matters, and that would assist council and how it is perceived by the people of Liverpool. I'd like to try a motion, Madam Mayor.
Yes, Council.
That council present the enforcement standard at a council workshop in 2022.
Unknown participant is now joining.
Yeah, I can hear now.
For the purpose of enabling open discussion with councillors with views to improve the enforcement standard, of course at the CEO's discretion.
Okay, you may have to read that again because I don't think they've got it.
Right, the motion is that council present the enforcement standard at a council workshop in 2022 with the purpose of enabling open discussion with councillors with views to improve the enforcement standard at the CEO's discretion.
Would the word be policy, enforcement policy at a council workshop with the purpose of enabling open discussion?
Policy, Madam Mayor, it's a standard.
It's a standard, okay.
That's the problem.
All right. Have we got a seconder?
I'll second it.
Councillor Haggerty, thank you. Any opposition?
Just a question, Mayor, if I can. Sorry, I got my hand up.
Yes, Councillor, go ahead.
Thanks. Firstly, any questions put on notice from councillors that aren't going to be here, will they actually be answered or are we forgotten about the minute we leave?
Oh.
Through the CEO.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Any resolution of council will be enacted as normal, Councillor.
And the questions will be shown in the next business paper if they're answered?
They will.
Yeah.
Thanks, Mayor. Thanks, CEO. Just a question through you, Mayor. Generally, the response when a resident has a letter from an enforcement officer, whether to enter or because of a proposed demolition order or whatnot, generally the response is it's because we received a complaint. My question is, do staff, and I'm asking staff question here, or does the CEO, do staff actively seek out, for example, using near maps, places where development may have occurred, let's say 20 years ago, that possibly doesn't have a DA today?
Councillor, we're verging on very operational issues here, but I will ask Mr. Smith to respond.
Thank you, through the CEO. I'll have to take the first part on notice because I don't know the answer to that. What I do know the answer to is in the course of their duties, if staff come across what seems to be unlawful activity, then council staff will investigate. But in the first part of your question, I will need to take that on notice.
And that's if we actively seek out?
Correct.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion?
Yeah, I'll just say this, Madam Mayor. In relation to pages 109 and 110, it refers to provisions that have now been overtaken by changes to the Impounding Act, which have just been announced in the last few days.
Okay. I'll ask the CEO whether he wants to make a comment.
Please.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. We're happy to review that in light of the changes.
Okay. All right. You have a motion before you. I'm going to put it. Those in favour, those against, declare it carried. Next item's on page 112.
Move that way, Madam Mayor.
Thank you.
Happy to second it.
Any objections?
Yeah, I've got a question, Mayor.
Yeah.
And sorry I'm jumping in, my hand up button doesn't always work.
That's all right.
In relation to this organisation, where are they based? Because I can't find it.
Mrs. Bono.
Thank you, Councillor. Thank you. Through the CEO, this organisation has a focus on Western Sydney, Councillor. They've been working closely with Council and have been part of various district forums of late and have had well-received feedback from the community. So research will go to Western Sydney is towards a broader research of the whole. The research in Liverpool will go towards the whole Western Sydney area, and that will inform the urban heat opportunities and practical applications for Liverpool. So it's basically 5,000 will be received out of a 60,000 contribution that's required to undertake this survey.
And thank you. I appreciate the response, but through you, Mayor, generally our sponsorship, community sponsorships, donations, I know there's been times where we've said no for $100 to someone, a junior who lives outside the LGA. I still can't find out where this organisation is. It's been operating, and I'm not bagging the organisation whatsoever. I'm just going off what I could find about them. It's been operating for a couple of years, and there's not much that I can actually find about them, especially the fact that they are not local. And this is a community sponsorships report.
Yeah. Mrs. Bono, it's a geographic location of where they're headquartered. Are they
correct? Sorry, I would have to take that on notice, Councillor. I just know the broader work is for Western Sydney, with Liverpool being targeted within that. But in terms of the locality, I would have to take that on notice.
Thanks for that. I'll let Councillor Haggerty ask his things, and then depending which way he goes, we'll go from there. Thanks.
Councillor Haggerty.
Yeah, look, maybe I'm a bit tired and grumpy, but rather than talking to people, spending $5,000 on talking to people about heat-affected communities, maybe we should spend $5,000 on trees to actually, action rather than talk. But as I said, maybe I'm being a little bit grumpy today for obvious reasons, a bit tired. But, yeah, I looked at this one and thought, yeah, good cause. We've all had arguments of, I know Councillor Hart's quite passionate about this issue. We're all quite passionate about this issue, but there are real things we can do on the ground to tackle this issue, and I don't know if talking about it is as effective as an effective use of ratepayers' money. So that's my grumpy say.
Thank you. Councillor Caliendo.
Yes, Madam Mayor, going off of the points that my colleagues have raised, I know that there has been some work done in this space amongst culturally and linguistically diverse communities by, I believe, a researcher from the University of Wollongong, who was looking at the engagement of various culturally and linguistically diverse communities on recycling, on environmental measures, and very similar topics. This might be something that staff need to take on notice, but I was just wondering if there had been, if that had been factored into the work that is proposed, or if there is an overlap here.
I'll ask the CEO if we can get any further information.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Mrs. Bono, are you aware?
Sorry.
Are you? I'm aware that we have had a number of collaborations with the University of Wollongong. I suppose I'm seeking clarification as to whether that occurred in this regard.
I've sought some advice from Galovic on this, Councillor, through the CEO. Sorry, excuse me, my apologies. I would have to take that further on notice. I do know that they were looking at translations within this work and how it's going to contribute to the broader research, but the actual detail of that, I would have to get further clarity to provide you a better response.
Yeah, no, I thought as much. Thank you.
Councillor Chitty, did you have your hand up again?
Just a question, if I can, given that it's donations, and I thought the grumpy councillor was going to move something, but he didn't, can those funds be transferred to planting trees, given that it is a donation and sponsorship pot that it's coming out of?
I'll ask the CEO.
I would prefer, for the purposes of clarity, if Council doesn't wish to support this application, that it be rejected, and then we can work with other potential community organisations who would be prepared to submit similar applications around tree planting.
Thank you, CEO. And just one final question, Mayor, if I can, through to the CEO, and sorry to the Director, Raj, if it has been answered. Terminus Street, we were going to get those trees in nice pots put up. Are they coming soon? And apologies if I missed any email that says they're coming on this date.
Mr. Aitar.
Thank you. Through the CEO, Councillor, thank you for the question. I'm very pleased to advise that we should have those trees planted by the end of the year, by December, before Christmas shutdown.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to ask for the voting sheet. George, please. Thank you. Councillor Ayad, are you voting for the motion?
I'm against, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Balut?
Against, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Chitty?
Against, Mayor.
Councillor Dean? Councillor Haggerty? Councillor Haggerty?
For.
Councillor Hall?
Against.
Councillor Calienda?
Can you come back to me, Madam Mayor?
Yep. Councillor Carney?
For, Miss Madam Mayor.
Councillor Rhodes? You seconded it, Councillor Rhodes. Councillor Shelton?
Councillor Rhodes is on mute and on for.
Okay.
I think she's nodding her head.
She's nodding her head, so she's for.
I said, Madam Mayor, I think we should do this and plant trees.
We probably, ironically, will be doing both. Councillor Calienda?
I'll vote for it, Madam Mayor.
Okay. I'll vote for, then it's basically goes through. Thank you. The next item's on page 117.
I'll move that, Madam Mayor. Nice little bit of fun.
I'll second that, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Any opposition? I'll put it, those in favour, those against, the carried. Next item's on page 124.
Move that way, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Seconded.
I seconded.
Thank you, Councillor Carnib. Any opposition? I'll put it, those in favour, those against, are carried. Next item's on page 132.
Yeah, I'll move that way too. Thanks, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Shelton. Seconded.
I seconded, Miss.
Thank you, Councillor Carnib. Any opposition?
Question, Mayor, if I may.
Yep.
Thank you. And it's a similar question, and I totally understand that the CEO is the CEO, but is it appropriate to ask the same question to the CEO through to either the CFO or to the Director of Finances? Is that an appropriate thing to do? Because I want to ask the same question, if I can, Mayor.
We'll just ask the question and let's see what happens.
With relation to Civic Place, have all the financial implications, costs, variations, as known today, been reported to Council? And is there anything that can be but isn't being reported to Council for whatever reason? I'm not saying you are, but I'm just asking the question.
Through the CEO.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councillors will be aware that in order to ensure timely and accurate information being reported through not only the Council but to the Office of Local Government, that we set in place a range of measures that would ensure that there was transparency and timely, accurate information that had been independently verified. We have adhered to that process since it was enacted. I can't remember exactly when, but it's well over a year ago. We have also reported through to ARIC. Our books have been examined, audited, inspected by the Audit Office, by ARIC, by Grant Thornton, by a number of the large financial institutions. We have made every effort to provide timely, accurate information. And I can say hand on heart that for all of the information that I'm aware of, that has been reported to Council. Now, I'll ask the CFO if there's anything else that he wishes to add to that, but I will give that assurance to you, Councillor. Yes, I will.
Through the CEO. Thanks, Eddie. I think you've covered it well.
in relation to what's reported in the current financial statements. So all the events and the activities in relation to the civic place up to 31st of June 2021 is included in the financial statements. We made reference to the PDA, the review of the project development agreement by Grant Thornton. They have gone through the whole of the agreement from page 1 to the last page. They have identified all the issues, and that has been reported to Eric, which is actually attended by the councillors as well. So there is nothing so far that we know and we haven't reported. And we have done that through various means, including councillor briefings. Thank you.
Thank you. Who else has their hand up? I can't see it.
I just got one follow-up, if I can, Mayor.
Yep, certainly.
Through you, through the CEO, I suppose to the CFO, if I can. Yes, these reports relate to the 31 June 2021. I thank you for that. So that's great. But given they are financial statements, I'm just talking about finances in general. Beyond that, is the answer still the same?
Beyond that, Councillor, there have been a number of updates by way of the strategic panel briefings, the last one being in October. Obviously, as the project progresses, things may emerge. They will be addressed. We've set up processes of verification and probity to resolve any issues that arise. Those figures have been reported at the October strategic panel, and that's the process that we're adhering to. I'll ask Mr. Morgan, are there any major developments, or have there been any major developments in the interim to which the councillor is inferring?
Thank you, Eddie. Through the CEO, no, Eddie, other than, as you said, we've reported to the strategic panel, and also ARIC reports, the most recent ARIC reports. So everything that's on the table, council is aware of. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Yeah, just a question for you, Madam Mayor.
1 minute, Councillor Hadid, yes. Councillor Hadid? I think we've lost you. Councillor Rhodes.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. I've had several constituents who are a little bit upset about losing the additional parking, and I know that council's done its best to try and increase it as much as possible, but they've asked me where it was written in any reports to councillors that that the additional parking that was going to be provided there as a bookend to that end of Liverpool, that we all agreed was one of the most substantial reasons for having parking as a major reason for this development. They can't seem to find it in any documentation. And they ask me, where is it? And I'll ask council now, can you provide the documentation where it was said that the provision of parking was only subject to there being enough funding for the project?
I'll ask the CEO if he wishes to make a comment.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. I would refer councillors to the resolution of December 2018 that it makes explicit that we should aim for around 300 car parking spaces and try and identify other locations for CBD parking. As I reported at a previous meeting of council, since then we've provided parking down at Shepherd Street, Speed Street area, and Woodward Park around the Whitlam Centre. That amounts to some 300 spaces, if I recall correctly. Whether there is explicit reference to it in a report, I would have to take that on notice.
And if I may, just one further question, Madam Mayor. When we saw the plans of the Civic Centre, the car spaces that were available then, I might have been wrong, but I believe then we were still talking about 500 car parking spaces. And that was the last time that it was ever mentioned my knowledge. Would that be correct?
Councillor, I don't believe so. The resolution itself that we have been acting on since December 2018 refers explicitly to 300 spaces.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? No, you have.
Yeah, just a question.
Yes, Councillor Did.
I think it's either Councillor Blute or Councillor Haggerty.
All right. Well, I can see your hand, Councillor Haggerty, so have a go.
All right, so we've had assurances from the CEO, the CFO and Mr. Morgan, so that's fantastic. This is a piece of string question, but it's entirely plausible that the information has been, if there is information saying there's been issues that hasn't sort of made its way up the chain or it's been withheld or whatever. So if that's let's make that a question. It's entirely plausible that people managing the project haven't passed this information on to one of the three of you.
I'll just ask the CEO if he wishes to make a comment. It's a bit of a Dorothy Dixer, Councillor.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. The point I would make to councillors is that with that resolution in December 2018, delegation was given to the CEO to deliver the project on time and within a specified budget. The then incumbent, and certainly I've made every effort to ensure that that is the outcome that we all seek, and I'll continue to do that. Does that mean that every item is reported back to council? No, it doesn't, because it's then operational. In a construction project of this scale, it's inevitable. The level of detail is significant, it's complex, and we have not only our own team working on that, but additional experts who are verifying every element of this.
Unknown participant is now exiting.
From quantity surveying through to all of the financial and probity issues. I can give council no more assurances than those that are already in place. And that has been ratified by ARIC, by the Audit Office, and by some of the others that I've already mentioned.
I'll ask this question in a different way. So when I used to manage projects, you sort of had a bit of a buffer yourself, a little bit of a threshold, maybe 5% of the budget here or there. It was up to you. If it exceeded that threshold, it would then go up the chain to perhaps your project board within, say, 5 to 10%. If it went 10% over, it might actually go up to senior management. If it went over 50%, it went up to the board. Do we have those kinds of thresholds in place for scope creep? If the budget exceeds sort of thresholds, are there hard and fast thresholds there for when there's scope creep and budget, even out of budget, within budget, that they sort of go up the chain of command? And what is the threshold for when these things are brought to council?
Well, two parts to your question, Councillor. Are those controls in place? Yes, they are, and they operate through two PCGs and then through to ARIC and to council through the strategic panel. In terms of the actual thresholds, I'll have to take that on notice. That's getting down to a level of detail that I'm not familiar with.
Not a problem. Thank you.
Any other questions? You have a motion before you, Council. I'm going to put it. Those in favour, those against, declare it carried.
Can I be recorded as voting against, Mayor, please?
Yes, certainly. Next item on page 135.
Yeah, I'll move that way too. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Shilton. Seconded.
Seconded.
Thank you, Councillor Conyers. Is there any opposition?
Question, Mayor.
Yep.
I just want to confirm that I'm reading this right. In most of the KPIs or the service to our residents, we're actually trending in the the wrong way. Am I reading that report correctly?
I'll ask the CEO to make a comment.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. It's a general assertion, Councillor. Do you have any in particular? Because certainly some of our KPIs have been impacted significantly and inevitably by COVID and the non-operation of some of those services. But happy to address any specific issues.
Thanks, through you, Mayor. And these wouldn't relate to COVID. These are reporting up to 2019. For example, on page 426 of the attachment, that's slightly trending downwards. Page 428 up to 19, that's trending downwards big time. That's if people feel part of the community. On page 430, provisions of adequate water drainage, that's getting whacked. And these all refer to 2019 survey. So not relating to COVID. There are some things in relation to COVID, and that's attendance at libraries and use of facilities and whatnot, and I totally get that. That has dropped. But I suppose, and it's not just a pick on council as a group, because I'm picking on myself, I'm part of this council, but what are we doing to address these issues?
I'll ask the CEO to comment.
Well, at the strategic level, the community satisfaction surveys are reported back to the executive management team. Each director is then tasked to review the feedback from that survey in terms of their approach within their own department, and then actions are formulated to address that. But that's at the general level. I'm happy to ask Mr. Hampurith to give us some more information on the actual ratings and the 2019 date as such. A couple of years.
Yeah, thanks. Through the CEO. So what I can say, and Councillor Chidi, you've obviously made reference to it.
Hold on a minute. Could you all mute, please? Please mute. If you don't mute, I will mute you. Thank you. Continue. Sorry, I apologise.
That's okay. The comment I would like to make is it's a 3-year trend, and yes, there have been some downward trends, but there's also been a lot of upward trends. As the CEO mentioned, every director's were tasked to obviously analyse those trends and respond accordingly. And the other comment I'd like to make is there's approximately 500 people participating in that. So from a proportionate of the whole community, yes, it gives us really good insights. However, that can be skewed year on year depending on who engages with this community satisfaction response. And we haven't done it for the last 2 years, predominantly due to COVID. However, this will be really good input. We're planning for service reviews, and we're planning to commence them post 1st of July next calendar year. And this will obviously give us really good input for us to unpack in a deeper way when we do that service review analysis. And those outcomes, obviously, of the service reviews will come before council.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Hampurith. Just one final question, if I can. On page 430, in relation to the water drainage, and I understand it was up to 2019, council, and this is probably a question on notice, last budget, last financial year, allocated $2 million to the outdoor crew for machinery. Can I put on notice how much of that actually went to the drainage department? Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you. Any other questions? None. We have a motion before you, moved and seconded. Any objections? I'll put it. Those in favour, those against, declare it carried. The next item is on page 138.
I'll move it if nobody else is jumping in.
Thank you. Seconded?
Happy to second.
Thank you, Councillor Hall. Is there any objection? I'll put it, those in favour, those against, declare it carried. There's a hand up. Somebody got their hand up?
Councillor Chidi.
Okay, thank you. Next item is on page 167.
Yes, Madam Mayor. First of all, I'd like to thank the Council for this very detailed report. And looking at it, the most important disadvantage I can see is that it will not be in line with the New South Wales Waste Sustainable Materials Strategy 2041, which has mandated FOGO collection separately, and that the CDS revenue will not be available to council. So I appreciate their efforts in preparing the report to me. I'm still not totally convinced that FOGO is perhaps the best way. The state government has been wrong before, as we all know. It has tinges to me of the value of recycled paper, which leaves a carbon footprint much bigger than what the processes is even warranted. But I'm happy with it, and I propose the motion that it be that we, as per the recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Rhodes. Seconded by Councillor Shelton. Any objections? I'll put it. Those in favour, those against, declare it carried. Next item's on page 186.
Yeah, I'll move that way, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Shelton. Seconded?
I'll do it, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Any objections? I'll put it. Those in favour, those against, declare it carried. Next item's on page 190.
Is that ECD 02, Madam Mayor?
Yes, it is.
Madam Mayor, I've just got one quick question here. Did Council ask why the opposite side of Elizabeth Drive was not considered? Because there would have been no issues about disruption to residents or noise or anything like that. So it's just a quick question. Did Council, as was proposed at the Council meeting, ask if the other side of Elizabeth Drive could be considered?
I'll ask the CEO.
We may have to take that on notice, Madam Mayor, but I'll throw it to Mr. Morgan.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Through the CEO. Councillor John, the property manager, has paraphrased what he thought was most of those questions that came out of that council meeting, and most of the responses are there. And I think the good outcome of the questions generally was the reduction in the size of the actual area they require. Excuse me, but with regards to that other question, we'll have to take it on notice and confirm it back by the manager.
It's late taking it on notice when we've got it in front of council today, isn't it?
Well, Councillor, I think you need to be respectful. You had an answer. The council staff don't have to answer the questions because they have not been briefed prior to the council meeting on your question. So you have your answer. So I would be careful with your comments. Now, do we have a mover and a seconder?
Happy to move it, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Hull. Seconder?
I have another quick question.
Yes, certainly, Councillor Calienda.
I noticed that previously Councillor Haggerty raised the issue of noise control measures. I just wanted to know if there was any movement on that because they were denied initially.
Thank you. I'll ask the CEO. Can he ask the appropriate officer?
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Mr. Morgan.
Thank you. Through the CEO, there's a fairly detailed response to all that, Councillor, in the responses from Transport for New South Wales. So, not knowing the actual detail, I can't give anything other than refer you to that report. If that does not answer your question, please come back and we can confirm same.
Okay, thank you. We have a mover. We need a seconder. Don't all rush me.
I'll second it, Madam Mayor, and two comments at the same time.
Sure.
The first is that it is troubling that we so easily discovered that Transport for New South Wales actually only needed less than half of what they originally had proposed. It's troubling that we were put in that position, particularly where there was so much comment in relation to the loss of mature trees. And on that, the second comment is on page 199, where paragraphs 3 and 4, Transport for New South Wales merely says that it is their expectation that a mature tree will be replaced by another tree, a smaller one, and that Transport for New South Wales only has a 12-month establishment period, which means basically it's going to die anyway. So the whole episode has been rather troubling, but nevertheless I suspect we've done the best we can in the circumstances, and on that footing I second the motion.
Thank you. I'm just going to ask a question through the CEO. I'm sure given this is given a concerning and contentious issues for councillors, we most certainly will be continuing dialogue.
Absolutely, Madam Mayor, happy to do that. And in addition, Madam Mayor, to the previous question from Councillor Caliander, I would refer you to page 200, where the response that John referred to is set out in question, and the response to question 8. That's page 200.
Yes, I saw that. Sorry, through you, Madam Mayor. I saw that response, but I was just wondering if there was any update in terms of whether the assessment had been completed by Transport for New South Wales.
We'll pick that up.
Thank you. I'm going to put the motion. Is there any objections? I'll put it. Those in favour, those against, declare it carried. Next item is committees.
I'd be happy to move as a whole with a question on notice, Mayor.
Yes, certainly. Just let me write this down.
I'll second that, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. What's your question, Councillor?
Relates to traffic committees. Earlier this year, Carmichael Drive and Fifth Avenue were going to receive no stopping during school hours along a couple of sections of those roads. So Carmichael Drive in West Hoxton and Fifth Avenue in Austral.
Right.
Just want to get an update on where those signs were. And also, again, with the traffic committee, Brickmakers Drive at Moorebank, a crossing was being looked into next to the club. Just an update on that.
Okay, I'll ask the CEO to ask the appropriate officer.
That's okay, Mayor. They can go on notice.
Okay, all right, fine. Thank you. I'll put it. Those in favour, those against, declare it carried. The next item is on page 263, questions with notice, Councillor Haggerty.
Can we move this one into closed if we're going to go into confidential later?
Under what reason? Commercial in confidence or personal details being?
Yeah, potentially personal details being discussed.
All right, okay. I'll just put a little note. Thank you. Next one is the questions with notice in Councillor Caliander's name.
I will wait for the response, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Next item is in your addendum book, and it's Plan 05, and it's on page 652.
Well, Madam Mayor, I still have some issues with this, and my most troubling issue is the fact that we're still waiting on the flood evacuation emergency plan that people are asking me about, and what does it have in it and what does it mean. And another thing that bothers me is that Traffic New South Wales did a plan and modelling of traffic for the whole of the Liverpool LGA, which they would not give to councillors or council, I believe, to be able to see what they had planned and envisioned in the future. And it bothers me that councillors are being placed in a position to make decisions without the necessary information to be able to make valued and educated decisions. And on the basis of that, Madam Mayor, I'd like to propose a motion that council defer this until council provides information that enables councillor to make fully informed and fully educated discussions on this matter. the information that we would be seeking is the flood evacuation emergency plan for the whole of the Liverpool LGA. And I think, Madam Mayor, on the basis of some of the objections raised, I fully believe that we are entitled to see the modelling and the traffic studies that Traffic New South Wales say that they have done, but will not show it to council and councillors. I also, in reading the report, and I might have missed it because it was very detailed, but I couldn't see anything in the reports where it mentions the anticipated figures for travel to work based on train transportation. And I would like to see figures in there based on how many people have been reported to council before that have to travel out of the LGA for work, and that is done by train. I also am extremely concerned that council hasn't addressed the safety issues of Manning Street. And what concerns me most about that is the fact that council has approved development applications that are in direct conflict with the pre-existing racing training facilities. And that, to me, the question would be to that, is council going to take any responsibility for that matter? Or, because I definitely thought in planning regulations you weren't allowed to approve anything that was going to disrupt pre-existing developments in an area. There is a number of questions which I'm quite happy to provide to the council for questions to be included, but I think that because we do need to be fully informed and fully educated to be able to make decisions on this matter, I'd like it to be deferred until early 2022, and then we can, in a appropriate fashion for councillors, make decisions which are based on being fully informed.
Thank you. I'm taking that as you speaking to your motion. Do we have a seconder?
Yeah, I'll second that, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Chitty. You have your hand up. You wish to speak?
I do. If I can, some questions and probably again on notice. Well, actually, firstly, a comment. Building in stages isn't going to eliminate the concerns around horses in that area. If we start getting instructions, I must say I appreciate the work of council officers. We pushed them to get this report to us because we wanted to do something. But building in stages, for example, and still having horses in that precinct could cause us more dramas than, what we're trying to solve. In relation to the roads, my understanding is they're going to be 1.5 metres above where raising roads 1.5 metres. Is that correct?
Through the CEO.
Mr. Smith.
Thank you, Councillor. Through the CEO, I don't have the actual figure, but the roads will need to be raised to the 1 in 100 level to enable the development sites to be at the flood planning level, which is 1 in 100 plus half a metre freeboard.
Right. So why I'm asking that question, there was been concerns raised with some people in there, and it could have changed. The flood levels could have changed, and things could have changed since then. When some people built there, they had to raise, for example, 30 centimetres to get out of the flood zone. Yet now they're reading that it could be 1.5 metres. And obviously, if you're raising a road 1.5 metres, it adds to the cost of the project and the contributions and, what's needed. So I suppose on notice, if I can, what level is the road going to? And is that pretty much the minimum level that's needed to get out of the flood zone? Thank you.
And you want those on notice, those questions?
Yeah, that's fine, Mayor. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Do we have anybody wish to speak against the motion? No? Okay, well, could you put the voting sheet up, please, George? Okay, Councillor Audit, are you voting for the motion? Councillor Balut? Councillor Chitty?
For, Mayor.
Councillor Didd?
For.
Councillor Haggerty?
Begrudgingly for.
Councillor Hall?
For.
Councillor Caliander?
For, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Cunnib?
For, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Rhodes?
For, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Shelton?
Yeah, it's a hard one. I'm voting for.
Okay, I'll declare it carried. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is presentations. And I have some electronic presentations to make. This will be interesting. As it's the last meeting of the term, I would like to make presentations on behalf of the Local Government New South Wales Service Awards to our long-standing councillors, Councillor Tony Chitty, Deputy Mayor Councillor Mazar Did, Councillor Peter Hall and Councillor Ali Karnib. To be eligible for these awards, the New South Wales Local Government councillors must be currently serving as elected members and completed at least 3 terms, 12 years. Councillor Tony Chitty. Councillor Chitty has served as a councillor for 3 consecutive terms from 2008 to 2021. Councillor Chitty has served 2 terms as Deputy Mayor between 2009 and 2010 and 2015 and 2016, and Councillor Chitty was also President of West Rock between 2012 and 2016. Deputy Mayor Councillor Mazar Did. Councillor Hadid has served as a councillor for 3 consecutive terms from 2008 to 2012. Councillor Did has also served 3 terms as Deputy Mayor between 2012, 2014 and 2020 to 2021. Councillor Did also served as the Local Government New South Wales Board Member from 2015 to 2021. Councillor Peter Hall. Councillor Hall has served as a Liverpool councillor for 3 consecutive terms from 2008 to 2021. Councillor Hall has served as a Deputy Mayor between 2008 and 2009. Councillor Ali Karnib. Councillor Karnib has served as the Liverpool councillor for 5 consecutive terms from 1999 to 2021. Councillor Karnib has served 3 terms as Deputy Mayor between 2016, 2017, 2018 to 2020. These awards serve as an acknowledgement to your commitment and dedication to the pursuit of excellence for the Liverpool community. Thank you for your service. And the CEO would also like to make some comments and make presentations.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's now my pleasure this evening to present you, as Mayor, with the Local Government New South Wales Outstanding Service Award. This is one of the only times I get one on you where you don't know what's happening. The Local Government New South Wales Outstanding Service Awards are for elected members who have given long-standing and loyal service and made notable contributions to a local government and or the local government sector. This award acknowledges Mayor Waller's 22 years of service as a councillor of Liverpool City Council, which includes 2 successful mayoral terms. Mayor Waller has achieved so much with fellow councillors during her time on council, including the delivery and implementation of numerous meaningful new events and projects and investment in both capital upgrades and new works. Mayor Waller has led the way in public forums and providing our community with a platform where they can share their thoughts on the various elements that underpin our city. The Mayor has helped to ensure that changes were made right across the suburbs of Liverpool and not just in our CBD. Mayor Waller, you've been integral in helping to shape Liverpool as a city of the future that's brimming with opportunity and growth, while maintaining its powerful sense of community and togetherness. I thank the Mayor for her dedication to our city's purpose and pursuits, particularly during some very challenging times in challenging times in recent years, and I thank you for your leadership during the most recent challenges of COVID. I have greatly appreciated Mayor Waller's contribution to improving the region, and she will leave behind a legacy of community and a deep commitment to ensuring local people have a voice. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you. That's very kind. Congratulations, everybody. Oh, my goodness, that does look very special. I would like now to open the floor up to any councillors. And Councillor Balut, you earlier said you wished to say a few words, so we'll start with you.
Oh, absolutely, Madam Mayor. And of course, thank you for giving me the time. As you all know, that would be my last council meeting. I am very glad that it is, and I'm very grateful to have had the opportunity to service the Liverpool community for over 9 years. Madam Mayor, as an elected councillor, it was my intention to serve the people of Liverpool to the utmost transparency and respect. It has been a privilege and an absolute honour to serve the people of Liverpool for that term. Madam Mayor, throughout the years, I am proud to have been part of many good things in Liverpool, of which I'll say a few. Of course, lobbying and opening of the Western Sydney University and Wollongong University. It's a great achievement. The development of a $60 million Carnes Hill Community Centre. One of the very first councillors to support council to spend over $10 million to improve roads and footpath at my first term, and I was very proud of that. And I quoted back then is money will be well spent, and equally good money to borrow to invest on our roads and footpaths. And in many times, Madam Mayor, us as councillors would want to represent our city in a good way. I went out there and embedded with my confidence in the area, in Liverpool local government area, and at many times you'd have to sell your city in attracting billions of dollars in construction and other investment. Of course, I'd mention one back in May this year, ma'am, that I attended is the state-of-the-art architecture and construction of Woolworths' largest single investment in a cutting-edge distribution centre with an investment of $1.2 billion and creating 2,000 new jobs, including about 1,300 jobs during constructions. Madam Mayor, my intentions is to create jobs for Liverpool and for our local government area. Madam Mayor, I leave council on a high note with a very proud record of transparency, honesty, and integrity. I genuinely tried my very best to serve the mothers and fathers and residents of Liverpool, the ordinary constituents, the people that need us the most, struggle with their DAs and little problems that could take months and months of sorting out with council. I proud myself to be the people's man, not the big business, not the big property developers, not architects, but the everyday people of Liverpool residents. I'm glad that I have served. Very glad. During that period, I've met many good people, from council staff to ordinary residents that it gave me an absolute pleasure and the strength and the patience to stay on council because I felt I was serving the people, the real people that need us the most. And often they're forgotten, Madam Mayor. They're really forgotten, either by us and sometimes I must say by council staff. However, I would like, moving forward, to wish all the candidates all the best in their future endeavours, and I hope, really hope, that they're there to serve the people of Liverpool, not just a certain part of people in Liverpool, but the ordinary, the battlers, the one that really need us, the grassroots. And I'm looking forward, Madam Mayor, really I am, of spending some quality time, my wife, kids, and paying as much attention to my business and my family as I did by serving the people of Liverpool. Madam Mayor, I wasn't a resident in the Liverpool LGA, but most of my family have lived in Liverpool GA for decades. Having said that, I've acted as I was Liverpoolian by heart, soul, and passion. And I've had more passion in many different ways than many people, Madam Mayor, with respect, that have lived in Liverpool but did very little. On that note, I'll leave council very proud. It was a pleasure working with you, Madam Mayor, with councillors, with council staff, and along the way I've made a lot of good friends that I will maintain a relationship for many, many years to come. Eddie, I wish you all the very best. As a CEO, it was a pleasure working with you, mate, and it was a pleasure that you are leading a great organisation, wonderful organisation that will bear the fruit for many years to come. Thank you all, and I wish you all the very, very best.
Thank you, Councillor Balut. The floor is open. Is there anybody else that wishes to say a few words?
If I may.
Yes, Councillor Yard.
Yeah, thank you all and wish you all the very best.
Go ahead, Councillor Yard. I think I've lost Councillor Yard for a moment. Councillor Hall, did you wish to speak?
Yes, Madam Mayor. Just a few.
Whoops, can you hear me? Yes, so just a few comments. I've worked with you for 13 more years now as a councillor, and for 2 terms as where you were the mayor. It's been a pleasure working with you, and I'm actually sad to see you leave. But I do wish you all the best in your retirement, and where you're going is a wonderful, lovely place. And I wish I could go there too. So thank you very much for all your help during my 13 years as a councillor. And as I said, I wish you well. Thank you.
Any other councillors that wish to speak? Councillor Calienda.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Just to add on to Councillor Hall's comments, I'd also like to thank you for your leadership and your mentorship, particularly over the last 5 years, where we've been through the term that never really ends. Well, hopefully, and I know that often we've had some very difficult challenges. We've had some unexpected things come up, and your willingness to sit down, to explain, to work with all of us as councillors has definitely made my first term easier. And I really want to thank you for all that you've done to sort of help us first term councillors to sort of settle into our roles and figure out what to do. It has definitely been very much appreciated. And I also wish you all the very best in your retirement. And hopefully we see you around. Hopefully this is not the last that we see you around Liverpool. Hopefully you come back and you see what the legacy that you have left and spent 35 years building.
Thank you very much, Councillor Haggerty.
Oh, Councillor Caliander just stole all my words. No, I'd just like to echo the fact that we both, Councillor Caliander and I both came on council at the same time, and as you are when you start, you're a bit wet under the ears and a bit fresh, and you were extremely generous with your time and mentorship, and you didn't have to be, and you were, and I'm very thankful for that. And I guess if I name other councillors, I'm going to have to name everyone, but I'll miss Councillor Hachidi. We have a bit of fun across the chamber, but I do respect Tony. We might not agree on everything, but he certainly has a very strong code of ethics that he operates by, and he's a straight shooter, and you've got to respect that. So I'll miss Tony, and I also miss Jeff. I think this council, both in Tony and Jeff, you've got both have a really good eye for detail and attention to detail, and there's a few times during this term where either one or both of them have picked up on something, buried in the papers somewhere, and it's led to a better outcome for the people of Liverpool. It's going to be a very big loss, and I'm hopeful that once we get this new council elected, that we'll be at a loss if we don't have someone or one or more councillors with that same skill set. So it will be a loss. So thank you, Tony and Jeff. Gus, I think you said it all about yourself. I concur with that. Your passion for Liverpool and your passion for small businesses in particular certainly taught me a few things about popping into a cafe and having a chat and seeing how business is going. So I've probably stolen that one from you. Thank you. Look, to everyone else that might not be back, thank you. I think we've operated really well this term of council, where we've picked up the phone and we've spoken to each other, regardless of party affiliation, and we've done what not just local government but all levels of government should do, which is put the people first and work out what the best solution is for the people. So, it's been fun, and I'm sure it'll continue to be fun. But I think we should all consider ourselves, having done a job well done during the last 5 years, and we've gone through a once in a century pandemic, and we've had ups and downs, but in the end we've always managed to put Liverpool first and act in the best interest of Liverpool rather than party politics. So I think that's something to be commended, and something that others should look to as something to aspire to. I'll leave it at that.
Thank you. Councillor Rhodes.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Look, the first thing that I would like to comment on is the staff, the management, the directors of Liverpool Council. It's been an extraordinary time, and you guys just did a fabulous job in holding it all together. And I want you to know, no matter what my fate will be at this next election, that I am truly appreciative of the very, very hard work that you put in. My heart bled when we had meetings with only a few councillors in who were there in attendance, knowing how much work and effort you put in. David, I will never ask you a question unless I've got 3 hours to listen to the answer. Jennifer, I know that we haven't always been on the right side, but you know that I do appreciate you, and I think that you do your job very well, unfortunately for me most of the times. Eddie, I wish you all the best in your position, and it's a big job that Liverpool has got. But we are on the brink. We have to change perceptions, and we've got coronavirus that is still going to be lurking there in the background. I know the challenges, but I know that there is a professional staff there. George, really appreciated all of your reports, and you gave me a lot of faith and confidence in council from the information that you provided. Vishwa, you're tops at your job, and I appreciate all the effort that you've ever put in. I can go on. Tina, you're doing a terrific job, but it's easier to just say you're all doing such a fabulous job, and I know that you will continue to do that and not only challenge the new issues that we've got to face as a council, but you will come up with those solutions. I have every confidence in you. I'm also very much aware of the vast amount of experience that we're losing at this next election. And I myself have relied heavily upon the experience from those councillors who have served on this council for many, many years. And I know that you're still going to be there, and I know that you say that you will still be available if ever any of us need to question things again, as we have all done and all worked together. And I appreciate the fact that you offer to do that. Councillor Shelton, I will greatly miss you, and I forgive you for picking on me, and I forgive you for very rarely voting with any motion that I've ever put up. Mayor Waller, you have accomplished a great deal, and I know that you are well deserving to be retiring to a life of luxury up there where it's perfect beautiful one day and perfect the next, whilst down here we've now got rain. But I wish you all the best. So to those councillors that are departing, I thank you for your great knowledge. I know that you will still be there if the new councillors that do get elected need that assistance and that experience. It's not lost, it's still there, and I hope that they reach out to you because they're going to need it. And the council staff, I think, would appreciate you providing that history to the new people who will be on council. I think Councillor Waller said it all earlier on when she said that it's not easy being a councillor, and I think the first lesson you've got to learn is the restrictions that are placed on you. You might want to achieve, you might want to do things, but my God, it's bloody hard. And it takes you a few years to realise just how hard it is. But I believe that Liverpool has got the capacity to work together, and it's only by working together when everybody is on the one page that we can really move Liverpool forward. So one and all, I thank you very, very much. And I may be here, I may not, but it's been a pleasure working with you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Rhodes. I see another hand up and I can't figure out who it is. Councillor Chitty, did you wish to speak? Silence. Councillor Ayard? Okay, well,
Hello?
Hello, Councillor Chitty, did you wish to say something?
Yeah, if I can, Mayor.
Go for it.
Thanks for the presentation. I was expecting a Cartier watch or something, but I'm getting a piece of paper. I think all government departments should work the same, and that should get replaced. But Mayor, on a serious note, I remember when Dad migrated us into Liverpool from Lakemba back in the 80s or the mid-80s. I never imagined, never thought that I would, one, get into politics and two, be on a council as great as Liverpool for 13 years. it has been a wonderful journey, and I won't put the camera on because I think for the first time in a council meeting I'm going to cry. It really has been a wonderful journey. You know, we can go through achievements, but if you go through achievements, you've also got a list of things you got wrong. So I reckon if we just let them balance off, that'll make life easy there. There are some people I do want to thank. In particular, my two kids and actually their mother as well for actually supporting me through the journey of being a counsellor. For those on council, they know how much your partners and your family actually suffer from you being in that role. So to the two kids and to their mum, thank you very much for the support and for the encouragement to actually be on council for such a long time. When it comes to council, George, Artie, Susan, Rose and Mari, the council support officers, thank you very much for always picking up the phone. Thank you for always just doing, and some people say you're doing your job, but no, it's more than your job. You went above and beyond to ensure, you know, that our questions were answered and we got what we needed. And, you know, to Artie, you're the best, Artie, always with a smile, no matter what it was. All the other staff as well, but Artie in particular, thank you. I'm sure Councillor Shelton will agree with me on this one. To Rose and Federico, I honestly missed you. I thought tonight we'd actually see you with one of those nice meals. But thank you for always being there and making sure that we're fed before a council meeting does happen. To Mr. CEO, it's been a pleasure. Good luck. Keep your spirits up. And I think the Mayor said it to you, or you said it the other day. What does our policy say? What does legislation say? And you know what to do the right thing, and we commend you on that. To the directors that are, it's actually a good mix between chatterbox, smiles, cool. Mr. Raj, you are Mr. Cool, always laid back, been through it all. I think if we can throw all the directors in one washing machine and spin them around a few times, there's characteristics in every single one of them that make this organisation strong and make it a great place. I also want to thank some people that have been a real pain in the backside to. Lena in planning, she's always answered the calls while she was in that role. Obviously, we all know with developments and we always get hassled. You've always answered the call. You've always responded to emails. And you've always been direct, which is the greatest thing that anyone can actually ask for. George is no longer here. Tanada in compliance. This is probably just an insurance policy as well, just in case I get caught doing something. Just joking. Again, you know, we understand your role is tough and you understood our role as councillors, sorry. And we've always tried to find that happy medium where we can obviously abide by the law, but ensure that the residents, there was a way forward for them. To my fellow councillors, I never, ever thought that Councillor Haggerty would give me praise. I must say it's great, but Councillor Haggerty, yes, I will miss you. I will miss the sparring. You know, it has been great. Councillor Carnid, he's got his picture on there. I think that was taken about 15 years ago. But Councillor Carnid, thank you for not only being a colleague, but being a friend, and for all your support in the background when things got tough. I remember being yelled at in the car park by Councillor Carnid a few times on unrelated matters, but it was coming from a good place. And Councillor Carnid, thank you. And I'd extend that also to Councillor Hadid. You know, when times got tough for me outside of this council, you were a rock. You both were there and very supportive. To every other single councillor, Councillor Rhodes, started off really bad between me and you, but it ended up not too bad. Councillor Shelton, it's been a pleasure. I don't think I ever won an argument against you because when I got close a few times, you'd always change the subject and you'd run. You're always busy trying to defend someone. So thank you to my Liberal colleagues, Hadid, Balut and Ayad. Thank you for your support. Councillor Hall, all the best. And I don't think I missed anybody in all that. Yes, you, Mayor. I did miss you. Unfortunately, when it comes to politics, we never saw eye to eye. But I must say, as a person, as a human being, you are a beautiful person. Well done for what you've done, especially with your family. You're an amazing woman when it comes to that, and congratulations on that. And I wish you all the best. And in saying that, I'll still be a resident, so I'll still be a pain in the backside when I can. But I suppose in finishing, in the words of former Deputy Commissioner Caldas, I will miss the clowns, but I won't miss the circus. So good luck, everyone, and look forward to talking to those who will still talk to me in a couple of weeks' time. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Sheldon, did you wish to say anything?
No, I'm good. Thanks, Madam Mayor.
Okay. Anybody else that wishes to say anything at this point? Councillor
I would
Kanye.
I would like to everyone Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. And for you, Madam Mayor, we wish for you good wishing in the future. Thank you.
That's very kind. Thank you. So thank you all very much. And with that, we haven't finished the council meeting, but we will take a 5-minute break. We'll be back at 8:10. Hopefully we've got a quorum. Yeah, well, there's 1, 2. Okay. Right, the first item is notices of motion on page 265 in the name of Councillor Haggerty.
I'll second that, Madam Mayor.
So moved by Councillor Haggerty and seconded by Councillor Caliander. Did you wish to speak to your motion, Councillor Haggerty?
I would, but I can't mute.
We can hear you. Oh, I see what you mean. Could hear you a minute ago. Let's see if I can. Oh, there you go. You unmuted now?
Yeah.
There you go. You're on.
We covered this one in the Warwick Farm one, but this flood evacuation study, what we were told, I think the latest date is late November. Can we please get an update on this, and what recourse do we have to get this flood study in? I'm sure we've picked up the phone. I know we picked up the phone.
I'm sorry, Councillor, we're in notices of motion. No.
This is also in relation to this issue.
Oh, okay, to the concrete crusher.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, fair enough. Go on. Sorry.
So can I get an update on this flood evacuation study, and what else do you need from us as councillors to continue to push this? I know we've all had a crack and we've all tried, but if there's any further advocacy we can pursue, please let us know.
I'll ask the CEO if there's any comments that need to be made at this point.
Mr. Smith, would you like Kurt to comment?
Thank you, Councillor. Through the CEO, as outlined, the flood evacuation strategy discussion document is expected at the end of this month. The reason it has been delayed is issues with the SES in informing the inputs into that study. We are having the assistance of the Planning Delivery Unit at DPI to assist, and we had a very fruitful meeting with them last week. So we are expecting that discussion document at the end of the month. What will then happen is we will work with the proponents that have planning proposals in the collaboration area and in the Moorebank East precinct for their inputs into that, and it's expected to finalise that early in the new year to enable these planning proposals that have already been endorsed by Council or that have been endorsed in principle by Council to be resubmitted to DPI for a gateway determination consideration.
It's just very frustrating that, you know, the SES do fantastic work and no one's criticising them, but, you know, probably hundreds of jobs and other sort of benefits to our economy are held up because they've got to add a few paragraphs to a document or something. It's frustrating, but I understand that's what the planning delivery unit is about. That's what they were formulated for and formed for. So, yeah, let's just hope it comes in, and obviously you'll let us know as soon as that comes in late November. All right, thank you. All right, that's all I've got to say about that one.
Thank you. Councillor Chitty, you had your hand up.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. Just wondering if the mover and seconder would include a point 2 that a report be brought back to the February council meeting with any issues relating to this particular development application, whether it's the proponent or from council.
Are the mover and seconder happy with that?
Yep.
Okay. Is there any opposition? I'll put it. Those in favour, those against, declare it carried. The next item is on page...
Sorry, Mayor, was that unanimous?
Nobody spoke against it, Council. So
Sorry.
No one said they're against it, so I'm assuming it's unanimous.
Can it be marked that way?
Unanimous, Madam.
Thanks.
Pardon? Who's that? They're gone again. Sound is terrible. Okay, the next item is on page 268 and it's in the name of Councillor Ayard.
Mayor, Councillor Ayard's offline at the moment, but
Right.
she has okay with me to move that.
Right.
If that's okay with you.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
You got a seconder?
I'll second it, Madam Mayor.
Is there any disagreement or any opposition?
I'll vote against it, Madam Mayor.
Right, okay.
I'd just like to raise a concern.
Yes.
I'm happy to support it, but I think, you know, there is a process here for rolling out footpaths, and I get that this is a higher pedestrian area, but there are parts of Liverpool that have been there for probably 40 or 50 years, some in Lanier, which I've put through in the last week or two, that don't have a footpath on either side of the street, and I think they should take priority here. So I just wanted to make that point, that, you know, it's better to have it everywhere in Liverpool have a footpath on at least one side of the street before we start putting footpaths on two sides of the street, unless it is a high traffic area. I appreciate that it is a high traffic area because it's across the road from the school, but just wanted to make that point.
Thank you, Councillor. I think Councillor Ayard's been wise in putting as soon as possible. That's a bit of an elastic term, which is very helpful, I think, for staff. Okay, is there any opposition? I know Councillor Shelton's saying he's opposing. I'll put it, those in favour, those against, declare it carried, and Councillor Shelton voting against. The next item's on page 270. In the name of Councillor Haggerty.
That's me. This one's scandalous.
Oh.
Councillors, scandalous.
Okay.
So I'll move as per the book. You've got a bit more information there. There's a very detailed report. Thank you for that. But, you know, this is a classic example of Liverpool being singled out by the state government. And I don't want to be political here, but the evidence is very clear. There were 40 roads recommended by an independent expert panel which said they should be reclassified from council roads to either state or regional roads right across New South Wales. So there were regional roads. I think there were a few in Blacktown. There were 4 in Liverpool, and the state government put out a nice glossy media release saying how wonderful are we're going to reclassify all of these roads except for 3, and all 3 were in Liverpool. I'm a bit perplexed. Now, the reason they gave was some vague reference to the Western Parkland City or the City Deal or the airport. Last time I drove on Moorebank Avenue, I'm pretty sure I was around Moorebank, which is, not direct access to the airport. I understand 15th Avenue and Devonshire are sort of feeder roads out to the airport, but the Moorebank one didn't make sense to me. My hope is that they will be reclassified and that this isn't just being stalled so someone can go cut a ribbon or do an announcement before March 2023. We shouldn't be playing politics with this stuff. The roads are major thoroughfares and should be classified as such, and they should also be upgraded to be major thoroughfares. We've banged on about 15th Avenue quite a bit. And we should continue to advocate. I'm doing that here. The other one is Devonshire Road and Elizabeth Drive. Now, this one also does my head in. My understanding is that we've put this up at Traffic Committee for years. There is agreement that traffic lights need to go in there. Council's ready to upgrade it, but the state government tells us, no, we've got to wait till we're going to upgrade Elizabeth Drive. They're not going to upgrade Elizabeth Drive yet because they're building the M12. So we're in this weird sort of chicken and egg situation where people risk their lives every single day on their way to work or on their way to school. I was out there the other day, and it's dangerous, and it's getting more dangerous as more construction takes place out at the airport, as Austral grows, as that part of the world grows. We've got ourselves another situation like we've got out at Heathcote Road, where we try and get in and out of Voyager Point. I understand that the ultimate goal here is to put traffic lights in, and that's fantastic, but we should continue to advocate to make that road safer. So if there's an interim solution here, we should be pursuing that with the RMS, and it really frustrates me that we're at the mercy of the RMS when we've proven using their policies and rationale and processes that this intersection is dangerous and needs to be signalised. So I'll end my rant there, and hopefully, councillors, you'll support me. Thank you.
Thank you. We got a second now?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Councillor Rhodes. Is there any disagreement? Opposition? I'll put it those in favour, those against, carried. Next item's on page 271. Again,
I'm happy to second it with an amendment once Councillor Haggerty moves it.
Yeah, all right. Councillor Haggerty, you're moving, obviously.
I'm moving, but I've got some amendments as well. But Councillor Chidi, go for it.
I couldn't do it to you, Councillor Haggerty. Go for it.
Just point 2 there. I think we should change that. Include a stadium as part of lobbying efforts. Full stop. Sorry, yeah. So go back to how it was. And just go full stop at efforts.
Okay.
And point 3, notes, media reports that the NRL considering funding a stadium in the southwest.
Yep.
And over to you, Councillor Hachidi.
Just wondering if you'd include reaffirming support for a stadium in Liverpool at Woodward Park.
That goes against our agreed master plan for Woodward Park, Councillor. Just a technicality.
No, and I'll tell you why. I was actually originally going to put up something here that we go off and do an options paper or some form of feasibility study, because I think a stadium in the sea. There are basically 2 locations here being considered, Liverpool or Rossmore. They're the ones being floated around. They've both got pros and cons. I can see the benefits of one in Liverpool. I can also see some potential issues. Same deal in Rossmore. Rossmore is really, at the moment, not near anything. It will be in 5 or 10 years. So I didn't want to specify a location because I think we need to consider both options and leave that to the experts to come back and do a bit of a study and tell us what's the best one. So I'm not saying no to Liverpool. I'm not saying yes to Rossmore. I'm just saying we need a stadium in Liverpool, but let's get a bit more information on where that goes. And if the information comes back and says it's entirely feasible at Woodward Park, then I'm happy to consider that. But until we have that information...
We've already had a fairly detailed report tabled 10 years ago on that, and it actually did spell out things quite considerably. But Councillor Hajiti, you had your hand up.
So did you say Hajiti?
Yep.
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
Oh, thanks. Sorry, Mayor. Just a few questions then, and I'm happy still to second the motion because it still says Liverpool. Just a few questions, if I can, through you, Mayor. I would take it the discussions have happened between staff and the NRL or the Bulldogs or the Tigers.
Yeah.
Has a preference been put forward to where they would prefer to see a stadium?
They're very flexible at this time, but we have been looking at it out of the CBD for lots of reasons. The Woodward Park space would not be sufficiently big enough to manage the traffic and the traffic flow and the parking and all that sort of stuff. But they are looking at a substantial site. And at the moment, I think they're definitely looking at being on a roadway or a nexus to the Aerotropolis so that there's transport nodes. But I'll let the CEO explain a bit further.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. A couple of points. One, for information, we actually have, if I can remind councillors, that we have on our books that a resolution, one element of which was that we would not fund a stadium proposal in regard to Woodward Park, and specifically the Canterbury League's ground or area around that. That dates back to May 2016. Since that time, and more recently, we have held a number of workshops with councillors around the proposed master planning of Woodward Place. During that process, as the Mayor rightly points out, there were a number of discussions with the NRL. They considered Woodward Place, they considered Rossmore, and we were about to undertake a site visit out to Rossmore just to give them a sense of what was going on and what the potential would be when the first round of COVID hit. Things have gone, obviously, they've toed and froed. State government, as part of that stadium commitment, was all part of that discussion. And it really hasn't been revisited until more recently. We haven't been approached by the NRL directly, as far as I'm aware. Mr. Morgan could confirm that, perhaps. But we are open. Ultimately, this will be a political decision whether we support it or not. The point that I would make from an economic perspective is that building a stadium is good for the local economy only if the stadium is the most productive way to make capital investments and use for its potential workers. We believe, as an executive team, that there are higher and better uses for Woodward Place. That's why, at your direction, we have pursued the master plan in the level of detail that we have. But ultimately, this will be a political consideration, as it will be for the NRL or anybody else considering the location in Liverpool or in the LGA.
Thank you, Mayor, CEO. Just a few further questions. Mayor, you raised the issue that we're master planning Woodward Park. I get that. Do we actually own all the land yet, or have we spent money on a master plan where we don't own the land?
We have taken up the whole space in the master plan, but again, there's discussions about the land we don't own and about how that can be incorporated into the master plan and whether we buy it back or whether we lease it back or whatever else. There are other issues with that land that's only recently surfaced, which will be needed to discuss in confidential, not in the public arena. But that, again, will be a decision that the owners of the land will have to make. They've got their own options, but we also need to plan the rest of the space.
Thanks for that. But just a couple of further things. If the owners of that land say, no, we don't want to be part of your master plan, well, then that master plan then needs to be changed accordingly. I'll take it. And I suppose I'll just throw the other question in to the CEO if I can, Mayor.
Yeah.
If the NRL in your discussions make it clear that the only option for them would be Woodward Park, I take it you would then bring that back to council and say, council, we've had the discussions. This is what they're chasing. It's up to you guys whether or not you want to support that or not.
I can give you that assurance, Councillor, yes.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other discussion? I'll put it, those in favour, those against, declare it carried.
I'm against, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Hale. Councillor Shelton, are you against?
No.
No?
I haven't put my hand up.
All right, just checking. All right. Next item is confidential items. So we'll be moving into confidential session under Section 10A2A, Section 10A2D1, Section 10A2C. Explain to the public what motions were moved in the session.
Madam Mayor, while that was happening, my computer wasn't working when you adopted the minutes.
Yep.
For whatever it's worth, in relation to minute number ECD on page 18,
yep.
I'm down as both moving and seconding, which I didn't have that achievement.
Very clever.
Yeah, slightly beyond me. So if the motion where the minutes were adopted wants to be altered so that the page 18 doesn't have me both moving and seconding the same item, which was the Sydney Water proposed compulsory acquisition. Okay. I don't remember who the other party to it was, but no doubt that can be worked out.
Oh, I didn't put on my notes, but I have to find my notes.
Yeah, so page 18 of the minutes of the previous meeting. October meeting.
Yep. Well, we'll leave that with the typist, but we will amend that, Councillor. Thank you for sharing that with us.
And I'm sorry my computer wasn't working.
No, that's not.
Stabbing at the button trying to...
That's okay. All right, well, we've moved back into open council. Council in closed session considered question 1 and a proposal that council use... I couldn't find a council considered question 1. Oh, excuse me, but I just turn off Siri. I don't know how to do it, to be honest. Okay. The council, with the use of private investigators incorporated into the enforcement strategy and a workshop, councillors discussed this matter. The next item is on confidential, and it's Australia Day Awards. Sorry, just let me get to the page. Yeah, I'm getting there. The council endorsed the recommendation award recipients as proposed in this report and keep confidential the nominations contained in the recommendation award recipients pursuant to the provision of Section 10A2A of the Local Government Act. So the next item would be Comp 02, and the recommendation is notes the contract for small, large electricity markets, including public lighting, renewable energy, and LGCs, was awarded to Zen Energy Retail Proprietary Limited, ABN 546157511052. This tender was determined to be the best value offer for the period of 5 years, with the optional extension of the contract for a further 4 years, subject to SS Rock and its participating council's approval. 2, keeps confidential the details supplied in this report containing information on submissions received pursuant to Section 10A2D1, the Local Government Act 1993, as it contains commercial information of confidential nature that would, if disclosed, prejudice the commercial position of the person who supplied, and be provided with a report on the true financial cost of a grid and non-renewable energy in implementing that contract. Yes, Councillor Haggerty and Councillor Chitty, you both got your hands up?
No, when you finish, Mayor.
Okay, and the third item in that booklet, I can get the page turned. Oh, sorry, not quick enough. Is that Council approves the acquisition of Lot 182 DP 1237400, identified as Lot 182, 18th Avenue and part of Cortina Avenue, DP 1237400, and part of Tokyo Road in DP 13223, except 400, and part of Tokyo Road in DP 1238766, and part of Tokyo Road in DP 1238762 in Austral, with the terms outlined in this confidential report, authorises the CEO or their delegate officer to execute any document under power of attorney necessary to give effect to this decision, and keeps confidential this report pursuant to the provisions of Section 10A2C of the Local Government Act 1993, as this information would, if disclosed, confer commercial advantage on a person who counts conducting for purposes to conduct business. Being there was no other business, before I close the meeting, Councillor Chitty, you had your hand up?
Yeah, Mayor, thanks. Just on a couple of things. I just want to make sure I was reported as voting against the enforcement policy and that I wasn't in the room for Conf 03. That's the first thing.
I think that
make
was
sure of that.
Right. I'll just check with the typist.
Oh, yeah. It looks like one of them's there, and I was in the room for the other one.
Mm-hmm.
And just one final thing, if you will allow me, sorry, Mayor, when you start naming people, you always forget someone. So if I can, just for 30 seconds or a minute. Thanks, Mayor. Vish, I think you're still online. I wouldn't do your job for quids. Thank you for always picking up the phone, always answering questions, and always being there to give that helping hand. Peter Diplis, who joined us not long ago, but all the outdoor crew for the amazing work that they do. When you drive around, you see them out there having a go. They keep our city as clean as they can with the tools that they do have. And I suppose one of the best things that probably happened to me as a councillor is when we had an issue with the unions and we had all those rallies and those songs and those placards, because we actually got to know what the actual outdoor crew do and actually appreciated their work a lot more. And finally, Jennifer, for the nudge last week, sitting there, she said, "Yeah, it's yours, it's yours." I said, "No, it's not." And but for that nudge and also for always being there. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Haggerty.
Yeah, an unusual request. I was just wondering if everyone could turn their camera off so I can take an end of term selfie. Normally we'd all be in person, but we're not in person. So I just wanted to.
We'll ask George very nicely to take down the whatever it is.
How about you just invite us all next term?
Oh, you're always invited.
There we go. Now turn your cameras on, everybody, including you, Councillor Chitty. You're in your pajamas, aren't you?
All right.
All right. You got your photos thing going?
Yeah. 1, 2, 3. There we go.
Wonderful.
Thank you, everybody.
Is that happy snap? Thank you all very much. Thank you for the memories.
Yes.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.